right, guys, we are back. It is back. The greatest time of year, the greatest, most watched sporting competition in the world, for all intents and purposes, kicked off today at the Grimaldi Forum in beautiful seaside Monaco. It will end under the bright lights of Wembley next June. It is the Champions League draw day. We are here to react to it. Dylan is very excited, rightfully so. His Newcastle Magpies
Bring it on.
are in the Champions League, and we're going to get to their group, which is very, very interesting. However, this Champions League, it's going to be a special one. It always is. We're always going to have Golazo. We're always going to be excited for that. This year, we do have 14 new teams, 16 teams returned from last year, 14 new teams. 3 new English teams, which is interesting. No Ajax, no Juventus. You're missing a lot of Champions League history. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And then also, fun fact, first time since 2003, no Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo in the Champions League. So,
good riddance to one.
good riddance to
and
one.
I wish the other would come back, but I'm glad he's in America, so I guess I'm happy
Exactly.
with that. That's crazy, though. You said 2003?
2003. Yep.
Like, that almost doesn't seem real. Like, that almost feels
2003,
fake.
Ronaldo
absurd.
made his debut. It was the 2003-2004 season. Ronaldo made his debut in the Champions League for Man U. Messi with Barcelona, obviously, and then when Ronaldo moved to Real Madrid, them or Barcelona made it every year. I think they both probably made it every year. Dylan, Champions League, we both love it. Everybody who watches soccer loves it. You get to watch it for the first time with a rooting interest, a true rooting interest. I think you even told me on last year's episode maybe that you almost like enjoy watching it without a team in it, because
that's the first thing when you mentioned Golazo, I almost cut you off because I'm like, I didn't want to be a dick or come off mean, but like a tiny, like 2% of me is a little jealous of you getting to watch it without the stress and the anxiety. Like, I know how much of a wreck I was going down the stretch last season in the Premier League, how much of a wreck I was in the Carabao Cup final against United. So, like, I'm going to kind of miss watching Golazo for one of the 2 days every week because I'm going to be locked into the Newcastle game. So my Golazo viewership will get cut in half, and that's a little bit of a bummer because you miss so much of this league, more so than any domestic league by far, each match day if you are just watching one specific match. So I am a little bit. It's funny that you bring that up because I like a tiny part of me right when you said Golazo, I was like, damn, I'm gonna miss that a little bit because that show is the best. Great personalities. I love. They do a very good job of quick whip around coverage. It's very similar to Red Zone for any of you who aren't familiar with Golazo. It's very quick. The updates you get from your ESPNs do beat them out a little bit, but it's not drastic. So I will miss Golazo for half of the group stage, but I'll watch it the other half of the group stage. But overall, I'm buzzing. Like, I'm absolutely ecstatic to be here with you and Newcastle in the Champions League, of course. Mm-hmm. It's a weird feeling being what are we now? Not even 24 months removed from a relegation battle, and we're talking Champions League. So it is a little surreal. I said to you, you asked me before the draw my preferred grouping, and I remember it was PSV, Inter, and I think Barcelona because there's a lot of Newcastle Barcelona history in the Champions League. But you were kind of surprised, like you want that? That's a hard ass group, is pretty much what you said. And here we are ending up with an even harder group. And not gonna lie, I was sitting there when our name got pulled, staring at my computer like this, not F, not F, not F, not F, and it became Group F. And quickly after, I realized how awesome the group as a whole is, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun for our fans. Waited 20 some years for Champions League football, and and those are 3 magnificent away days. So overall, I'm super super excited for it. Not to go on too much of a Newcastle tangent too soon. I'm sure I will talk plenty about us and our group in our group preview episodes, but I'm buzzing, man. This is a great feeling. Mizzou football starts tonight. My soccer team just got drawn into Champions League. I'm pumped.
It's an exciting time, especially the group stages, because there's just so many games to always. It's like the first weekend of March Madness, and there's no World Cup break in between this one either. So let's go ahead and get into the start of the day, what we were looking at before the draw actually happened. For those of you who don't know, the teams that qualify for the Champions League, whether it's via automatic league qualification or that come through the qualifying rounds, they get put into pots. There are 4 pots. Pot 1 is the Europa League winner from the previous year, and I believe it is the league winners from like the top rated leagues in Europe.
Yep, and the Champions League.
Yes, and the Champions League winner.
So that was City, which also was the English champion. But yeah. Pot 1 always fairly stacked. You always see maybe one, really now only one kind of weak, if you will, pot 1 team, and that's no disrespect to the Eredivisie. We are both very high on it, but when you compare Feyenoord to everybody else in pot 1, it is certainly a step down. So everybody in pot 2, 3, and 4 was probably hoping for the Feyenoord group, and yeah, it was interesting.
Or the Sevilla
shook
group.
Out.
I'd say we're the Sevilla group.
Yeah, Sevilla's been down bad, but they do always show up in cup matches, as is well documented. So yeah, I think a lot of teams in pots 2 and 3 had 2 goals, avoid or get Feyenoord or Sevilla and avoid Newcastle. We're probably most teams in that 2 and 3 bucket goal there, and it was really interesting to see it all play out. It was exhilarating. I don't know if I like thinking back to when I was in college and March Madness selection show for Mizzou. I don't think this is just 10 times. I was 10 times more nervous than I was freshman year. Mizzou as a possible number 1 seed. I was even more nervous for this. It was nerve wracking, but it was fun. I'm jealous of you Big 6 clubs who get to experience this semi regularly. It's a lot.
Yeah, let's talk about the pots for a second and how they're kind of determined, because it is weird if you go and look at what the pots were. You look and see Newcastle in pot 4. You see AC Milan in pot 3, who just won Serie A 2 years ago and has had pretty good success recently and historically. The pots are determined by the UEFA coefficient, which takes the previous 4 years' ratings and basically ranks the teams based on that. Newcastle, obviously, being at the bottom of the Premier League, not competing in any European competitions over the last 4 years. What are you guys, like 6 or 7 years removed from even being in the championship? Was it like 16, 17 or something like that? So unfortunately for a pot 1, 2, and 3 team, they were going to end up with Newcastle. You've also got your typical pot 4s, your Galatasarays, your Celtics, your Young Boys, and your Royal Antwerps. Pot 3 was interesting to me with
what a name.
Yeah, with
Antwerp's going to be our new Bruggy this year. I feel like we're just going to love saying Antwerp.
In pot 3, you had AC Milan as the headliner. Red Bull Salzburg seems to me to always be a tough out. Usually that pot 3 team, Shakhtar Donetsk, always in the Champions League. They're like top 5, I think, in appearances all time for the Champions League. We never know what we're going to get with them because we never watch them, but it seems like they just always churn out talent that ends up being sold to the big teams. Red Star Belgrade, I have no idea about. And then Copenhagen, who was in it last year, is just probably the worst.
No idea on Red Star other than nobody knows how to pronounce their new name that they go by. So we all just default to Red Star, and it's a hellacious place to play.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 things I know about Red Star is you don't want to play a road match at Red Star by any means.
And then pots 1 and 2 are usually pretty interchangeable. It's the best teams in the world the historic teams and really the teams that are the favorites to win the competition. So, Dylan, do you have anything else you want to talk about with the pots before we move on to what actually went down once those balls were selected?
No, yeah, I think we kind of covered the outliers there pretty well. I think the big thing on pot one and two is there are typically in pot two, sometimes in pot one, and we saw it a little bit this year with Sevilla. You see some teams that really performed at a high level last year to get them in that pot one and two, or have performed high in the last 3 to 4 years, but didn't necessarily have a great summer. So sometimes you can get, while they do have some of those historic names, looking at you, Inter, they're probably not as scary as the name would lead you to believe. And that's a lot of the times what you see in that pot too is some historic clubs that may be having a down year for themselves, but certainly some names that jump off the page.
Then you have the perennial pot two team, Dortmund. So let's move on to the groups. Group A is Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray, depending on where you are in the world and how you want to say it. One word for me to describe this group is Kane. Was linked with Man United off and on at points this summer. He's an English guy. He's probably the best English player over the last 10 years or so. He has moved away from the country. He is now playing in Germany for Bayern Munich. And if Bayern Munich is going to win this tournament, Harry Kane is going to have to score a lot of goals. And it will be fun to see him come back to England and play at Manchester United on that away day. So that's my one word for Group A.
For me, my one word, I'm going to give a little sneak preview to our group previews. My one word, though, is upset.
Okay.
I think there is going to be a surprise pot 3 or pot 4 team. I'm not going to spoil it at this point. A surprise qualifier for the round of 16 out of this group.
And we're not going into these groups very deeply because we are going to do more in-depth episodes on them and analyze them more and talk about storylines and things like that. So moving on to Group B, it's Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens. My word for this group is Europa, because I think Sevilla is going to end up back in the Europa League, go and win it again, because that just that just seems like it's what they do. My other option for this was, I'm actually using this word for another one, so I won't say it, but I think Arsenal will have a very, very good chance to win this group.
My word for Group B is Murica. I'm excited to see three. We talked about this in our USMNT roundup for the month of August. Super pumped to see three Americans playing on the same side and going to Arsenal, which for a lot of USMNT fans who are also Arsenal fans, which there is a very high number of you, it will be not probably conflicting. You're probably not rooting for PSV to beat Arsenal or anything like that, but I'm excited to see that kind of wrinkle, see how those Americans perform, see how they go into Arsenal and are able to perform. I am very, very high on PSV in this group, so I'm excited to see how the Americans are able to perform in the Champions League this year.
Group C, Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. Obviously, there's two clear headliners in this one. Napoli's been a really hot name over the last year. My word for this one is audition, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Victor Osimhen. I feel like he is potentially auditioning for the Real Madrid striker position come next summer.
Mine is, I thought when you said audition, you were on the same wavelength as me, but I like where you went with that. Mine, though, is welcome. We have Union Berlin coming in for the first time in club history. Absolutely crazy atmosphere. They've announced that they will be playing their home Champions League matches at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. So they're going to have 75, 80,000 fans at those matches. And then to Braga, I believe it's been 10 or 15 years since they've qualified, and it's only the second time they've qualified. So welcome. We talked about it kind of in the open, 14 new teams compared to last year, and really both of them are new teams to the competition as a whole. Braga, like I said, does have one appearance previously, but welcome to them, and Union Berlin making new first time or very, very rare appearances in the Champions League.
Agreed. Welcome. Group D is Benfica, Inter, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. My word for this is coin flip. I have no idea what's going to happen. Benfica's just lost so much over the last 2 years, but they're one of those Portuguese teams that always reloads. Inter, they haven't had a great summer. I don't know, what they're going to be this year, but they made it to the final last year when they definitely weren't the second best team in Europe. They can make a run again. They're experienced in the competition. Salzburg, I don't know the stats. This is purely off the top of my head, but I feel like Salzburg actually qualifies for the knockout rounds more than they don't when they make the Champions League, which is interesting. But no, Gvardiol, he was with Salzburg, right? Or was he with Leipzig?
Leipzig.
Just kidding.
Leipzig.
And then Real Sociedad, all I really know about them at this point is that y'all bought Isak from them. So this group is a complete coin flip for me. I actually also I did a FIFA My Career Player and played at Sociedad for a few years. So that's my extent of knowledge on them. This group, though, coin flip for me.
Can I just steal yours? Because I came up with nothing here because it is such a crapshoot. I think if summer, I guess if I have to not go coin flip, I think it was a little bit of a letdown of a summer for both Benfica and Inter. But I think because of that, it does turn this whole group into a coin flip. I did my instant picks to qualify. And this was the one that I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to throw two names out there and we'll run with that. And they will probably change by the time we actually do our group preview for Group D. There's a very good chance they change because this group is very deep and very messy at this point.
Lots of parity in this group.
Extremely entertaining. It should be really entertaining. I do think overall there were a couple of multiple groups that look like cakewalks or snooze fests, and this certainly
don't say
isn't
snooze
one of them,
fest. Don't. Oh man.
Oh, it's one of mine too.
Let's move on.
Great segue.
Great
E, segue to Group E, which
snooze fest
is a snooze. Yep, exactly. That was mine
and
too.
We didn't even talk about this beforehand for those of you. That was like I think that's the first one.
Literally the one word I have snooze. I have snooze for this one.
Group E is Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. I mean, none.
How does this end up being a group when we have Group F out there too? That's the other how. If I had to pick another word, if I can't go with snooze because you did, how did we end up here? It's going to be. I mean, Lazio. I mean, we're talking. We have the third best Dutch team, Feyenoord. We have the third best Spanish team in Atleti, and I don't think there's a lot of question around those right now. We have the sixth best Italian side this year, probably. Like if I had to predict my finishing positions in Serie A, I would probably have Lazio at like 5 to 7, somewhere in there. And then you throw Celtic, obviously one of the powerhouses in the Scottish Premier League. Atleti's play style certainly does not help me pick another word other than snooze fest because of the way Simeone likes to play, especially in tournaments and cup play. I do think this will be a little bit of a snooze fest. I think there's a lot of potential. I think that second spot is really wide open. So maybe snooze fest isn't quite the best word, but it was also the first word that came to mind for me. But I do think that second place is kind of up for grabs, assuming Atleti wins this group, as I believe.
Yeah, you've got a Milinkovic-Savic less Lazio, who was their best player and probably the best player in their team history. He's no longer there. The only reason I'm interested in Feyenoord is because of Arne Slot. They actually won the Eredivisie last year, but they just have not looked good so far this year. Moving on to Group F. Group F. For me, this is the group of fun. And you could also call it the group of Well, I'll let you say your word. For me, it's fun.
Well, for me, I wanted to go death, but I thought you were going to go death, and I think every
Yeah.
other podcast that does what we do was going to go death. So I went with electric. Um, if you had to pick the top five, no, top six home venues in all of the Champions League this year, I think four of them are in this
Yeah.
group. I
Atmosphere is
mean,
also
you
a
like
good shout for the one word.
Parc des Princes is absolutely electric. Say what you will about plastics rolling to PSG, but their ultras are absurd. You have the yellow wall at Dortmund. San Siro is nothing to turn your nose up at either, and then you obviously have St. James's Park. So I think electric. I think there is a clear cut winner of this group. I think most people would agree. But after
Oh, I
that,
don't
I
know.
think
I
it
don't
could be
know. I don't
really.
know. I don't know.
So we'll save it for
Yeah.
our group previews. But I'm super high on one team. I think they're ready to turn a corner. I think this was arguably one of the best summers they could have asked for, which seems weird with what they lost. But I think electric is definitely my word here, or atmosphere, because I do think it's just going to be a ball of energy every single match day.
Yeah.
There's no going to Copenhagen. There's no playing at home against. Oh boy, who else am I forgetting here in some of these groups? There's no like Royal Antwerp. No offense to the
Yeah.
Belgian league, but it's four of the best venues in all of world football. And even if Newcastle bows out early, it's going to be a hell of a ride and a great tour around Europe for our fans that have been waiting for so long. So I'm
And
really
I did
excited
check
for
and
it.
make sure there were flights from Newcastle to these cities because it was questionable, but there is. So I do expect you.
If there wasn't, there's going to be now
Yeah,
too.
yeah, true. Moving on to Group G. I have bye week for this one, and I know it's two words, but I have bye week for City. Leipzig is absolutely no joke. I mean, they thumped Bayern in the whatever the German Community Shield is. I forget off the top of my head what it's called. But City could like purposefully lose two games to Leipzig and still just walk through this group in my mind. So I have bye week.
Yeah, I got cakewalk. Also, probably technically two words, but yeah, same thing. It's a Man City group win written all
Yeah,
over it, and that's no offense to Leipzig. They've just lost a lot this summer. Like if you look at everybody they've lost, it's a long list of guys that they've lost. But again, Leipzig, as you said, is not a team to turn your nose up at either. Especially seeing what they were able to do to Bayern in that. I think they call it like the
I think it's German Super Cup.
German
Is
Super
that what it is?
Cup or
German
something.
Super Cup.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think that's what it
That's
is.
what I thought too. I was a little
Yeah,
hesitant to say it, but yeah, they looked really good against Bayern. Obviously, that was an introduction for Kane. So, was Bayern like fully flowing and in midseason form? Probably not. But even still, a 3-0 victory over Bayern is in a cup, if you will, game is
yeah.
massive. So yeah, I think this one is probably the easiest to pick one and two to advance out of. So yeah, I got cakewalk here.
And last group, Group H. For this one, I have pressure. I have pressure and specifically pressure on Barcelona. Look, I think they're going to get through this group. I think it's going to be pretty easy. But if they don't, it's talk about ripple effects. Oh boy, it's going to be bad news in Barcelona.
I agree with everything you just said. I do have bleh or meh, whichever you want to
Yeah,
go with for this one for me. Um, it's a little bit more interesting than Group G, but not by much. I think again, this is probably the second easiest to pick the number one and two team in. But there certainly is a lot of pressure on Barcelona to perform after their less than stellar showing in the Champions League last year, despite
yeah,
winning the league. It is certainly a big year for Barcelona. They really do need to keep progressing and absolutely must get out of this group, especially the group they were drawn into. Barcelona over the last 3 or 4 years has typically been in one of the groups of death, if you will.
My alternate word for
that was
this one was Thanksgiving, because Barcelona, they won their league, so
finally
they were
got a
they were
draw.
in pot one, so they wouldn't have to draw Bayern or somebody like that. But yeah, pressure.
Yeah, they finally got a favorable
Yeah.
draw. So pressure's a really good word for them, because if things don't go their way, and in some world they don't advance, that would be um, absolute code red. Press the panic button. We need to start freaking out if we're
Yeah.
Barcelona at that point.
Yep. Those are the groups, guys. Dylan, any last thoughts?
How much are flights to Dortmund
Yeah,
from
right.
Detroit, Michigan? Is my number one thought.
I'll tell you what,
Because
I don't know about
holy cow, what
prices,
I
but it's
love.
long. I'll tell you that.
I don't care. I would be on a 20-hour flight if it meant I got to see Newcastle play at Dortmund. Dortmund obviously being the German club I follow, and having top 3 fan base in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super. I was super disappointed initially getting in this group, because of the challenges. But if you want to be the best, you got to be
Yeah.
the best. So why not knock out one of those or two of those teams, if we are going to make some sort of run? With it being so rare, Newcastle in the Champions League, there were a lot of Newcastle fans that were really pushing for an easy group. With that being said, I think long term, being in a more difficult group in our first appearance in the Champions League in forever may be a blessing. Not saying we'll be back next year for sure or anything to that magnitude, but it'll be a really good experience for a really young, and new side. So I'm excited from a Newcastle perspective. I'm really excited about probably 3 out of the 8 groups. I think are going to be fantastic. A couple of cakewalks and a couple of I don't really know how to feels, but it just feels good to be back, man. There, like you said at the beginning, there is nothing like champ. I would take Champions League over the World Cup. For casual American fans, they probably don't really get that, but I absolutely love everything that the Champions League has to offer.
Yeah.
And having a final in England is also kind of a cool wrinkle, that we're going to see with our 4 English sides in the competition. I think if I had to have a hot take, maybe not that hot because City's so damn good, but there will be an English side playing at Wembley for the final, whether it be Arsenal or City. Probably not United or Man U or Newcastle. Neither of the Uniteds are probably going to get there, but I think between Arsenal and City, we're almost guaranteed to see an English team playing in their home country for the Champions League come June 1st, I think. June 2nd, something
June
like that.
1st.
Early
June 1st, 2024.
June 1st. There will be an English team in that final at Wembley on June 1st.
It's not out of the realm of possibility for sure. Match week 1 kicks off September 19th and 20th. Make sure to catch the action on Paramount Plus, CBS, wherever you watch in your country.
Shout out to my guy Kev, who is a producer for the Golasso show. He got a shout out last week on
Nice.
Paramount. Shout out to him. Shout out to Paramount Plus. Love the work you guys do. Sorry you won't get my viewership for half of the group stage games now, but you guys are awesome at what you do, and we love you, and we can't wait for another great year of Champions League football.
Let us know what you guys think about the groups down in the comments. There are a million podcasts that are going to be talking about this week. We hope that if you've gotten to this point, you have enjoyed it. We thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll return to the channel at some point. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. You don't even have to watch our videos. That helps us out so much, though. Until then, we will talk to y'all next time.
How are the lads, baby?